Hello, my name is Taylor Worsham, and I'm an MLS student at Emporia State University. And today I'll be sharing about how to find mental health information through Merck Manuals. This tutorial is intended for adults who may not have familiarity with navigating medical databases and are looking for preliminary information on conditions, symptoms, medications, and resources. Merck describes itself as the trusted provider of medical information since 1899. It started by publishing print manuals in that year and evolved to be an online guide in 1999. You might consult Merck because it's well indexed and provides clear, easy to understand information that's accessible to many audiences. The Merck manual would be an alternative to something like WebMD and a supplement to other government-sponsored sources like Medline Plus or the National Institute of Mental Health. Merck can be used as a second opinion, or you can cross-reference it with other sources like Medline to see the similarity or differences in the information provided. You can gauge for yourself whether you deem Merck manuals to be a trustworthy source by checking information such as date, credential of authors, whether or not it was peer-reviewed, and the background of the publisher. Merck manuals are published by the pharmaceutical company Merck & Co., and it's good to be aware of any potential bias the company may possess or their business-minded motives. On the bottom of the Merck Manuals website, you will see a Health on the Net verified symbol, as pictured here on the right of the screen, and that details the standards it meets to be a trustworthy source. Those are authoritative, complementarity, privacy, attribution, justifiability, transparency, financial disclosure, and advertising policy. Though approved by this third-party source, it's always good to do research on a source yourself before trusting their information, especially when it comes to something as important as your health. Along those lines, health information you find on the web is no substitute for professional medical experts' opinions or guidance. With that, let's dive in. There are two ways to navigate this site, which we'll be going over, and that's through browsing or searching. So to get to the page, you can Google Merck Manuals, which will pull up all versions, but we're going to be consulting the consumer version, and you can start with this direct link. So as you can see here, it gives you the different options for the version, and we're going to be using the consumer version. So scrolling down the home page, you can see interactive, dynamic content about featured topics. These are the most researched, clicked on, or trafficked parts of the website. And here, as you scroll to the very bottom, again, you see the medical disclaimer similar to what I just gave you about health information on the web. So scrolling back up, you can see that there are tabs that you can use to browse, an A to Z bar for you to quickly jump to different health topics, and a search bar. So we're going to actually jump over to the right here in the About tab. And this is always a good place to start on a website because you can read up about the company, its history, what kind of process it goes through to get content onto the site. And something I'd like to point out right off the bat here, which makes this a unique site, is that there's no ads populating on any of the pages. And a little bonus, you don't have to register to use this site, so your privacy is protected in that way. Jumping back to the left in the Health Topics tab, as you toggle over it, you'll see many disorders listed, and then there are many categories listed, and then they're further broken down into individual disorders. So we're jumping into mental health disorders, and you can see there's many different options. And if you knew exactly what you were looking for, let's say you wanted more information on anxiety, you can click directly onto this medical topic. And this would give you more direct information and a targeted result rather than many different content types if you were to use the search. So it might be a more effective way to find information. As you can see in the medical topics, it's broken down nicely here on the left, and it gives you sections you can jump to. Then moving to the right, you see the title, the author, their qualifications, where they work, and when it was last updated. You can also click here onto the professional version if you would like to see more scientific information. And it might have a little more jargon, but you can do a deep dive into your research. So in the next tab, the symptoms, you can click into this and you might notice it looks pretty similar to WebMD. There's several different options, and the good thing about Merck is that, I mentioned this before, but there's no advertisements. So you'll know that there is trustworthy information and it's not going to be linking out to a site that's not verified. So again, through the breakdown that's over here on the left, and you'll kind of see what the symptom is, why you may be experiencing it, what to do when you're seeking help, when to seek help, and kind of what to expect. And kind of like the emergency tabs, I'll just say that there's no contact information for help for general things or for emergencies. It's kind of broken down into situations that would be considered emergent. And then here on the right, some basic first aid instructions. So I would caution you that this is a great place to go for preliminary research, but it maybe is not a go-to website in a crisis. Moving right along, the next tab is the drug information tab, and I found this to be a very useful part of this website. So you can see an A to Z list of pharmaceuticals, and you can jump directly to the sections, or you can search specifically into in the drug info section. And I'll go to this commonly searched drugs, and I'll just say this with pharmaceutical information specifically, along with regular health information, it's great to evaluate what the source of this information is and see who it's coming from and what their motive is for providing it. And if you do a quick Google search into Lexicomp, you will find that this is a health education website. The company does not sell pharmaceuticals, but it consults with medical professionals on medications. We'll not explore that too much, but that's the gist of it. Then into the resources tabs, you'll see many different content types such as videos, quizzes, etc. I wanted to direct you to the abbreviations link, medical terms and pronunciations. That is really helpful for you to break down some of this scientific and jargony speak to be more accessible. Next is the news tab, and I'll breeze over this one because there's many different sources on the web for health information news. Like I was saying about drug info, it's always great to scrutinize and look into more the source of the content. And something that you can do to fact check it is examine the author's credentials, when it was published, if it was peer reviewed, and what the company that's publishing it is all about. So it would be good before you read too much of this news to Google Health Day and do a little more research. So that's the health tabs. I'll click back to the home page now and show you the search, although it's pretty easy to navigate. So as you can see with this search, like many other search engines, it does provide a search assist feature. and we're going to click into mental health. And as you can see, there's many different results, different content types, and medical topics are usually the most helpful because it's basically an article about the whole category, the whole condition. And like I was alluding to when we explored this in health topics before, it's pretty similar with the title, the professional version, their credentials here in the top. And I'll click through on this one, and it takes you to the author's professional bio at the hospital or place of employment for this psychiatrist. So you can see they have been practicing since 1985. So that's a good indicator that this is a trustworthy author. So we're going to jump back to review. In today's tutorial, we learned about evaluating health information sources for their trustworthiness. And then we located information through browsing the site and searching. So if you have any additional questions, please contact me via email at tworsham@g.emporia.edu. Thanks for watching.